Hi everyone, today we're diving into our predictions for the upcoming GCSE Crime and Punishment and Whitechapel exam. We will be breaking down what's most likely to come up and how you can do well for it. Before we move on, let me share something that would be really critical for you. Content summary and top grade models answers written by our teachers. You can find a whole range of these resources at kingsbridgeeducation.co.uk. You can also find the link below. Now let's break down how we actually make these predictions. Here's how it works. First, we look at frequency. We look at how often certain syllabus points have come up in the past. If something's been tested a lot, it might be less likely to appear again, or it could be a recurring favourite. Then we look at recency. We also check how recently a topic appeared. If it came up just last year, it's less likely to show up again immediately. Finally, we look at notable gaps. We scan for gaps in key parts of the syllabus that haven't been tested in a while. All three help us build a smart evidence-based predictions. Now let's talk about 3 case studies we think are especially worth your attention this year. These are topics that either haven't come up recently or connect really well with themes that often appear in questions. First up is the gunpowder plot of 1605. It's surprisingly been absent as a major focus in recent exams. This case study links strongly to crime against authority, religion, and punishment. It could appear in a "why did it fail" style question, that's a question 4, or in a broader essay on causes or consequences, like question 5 or 6. Next is the treatment of conscientious objectors during the First and Second World Wars. This one hasn't featured yet, despite being a mandatory case study. It's a great link to themes of authority, attitudes, and punishment. You might get a question 4 comparing how they were treated in each war, or a question 5 or 6 exploring what influenced their treatment. And lastly, the Pentonville prison case study from the mid-19th century. This one's all about the separate system. A typical question might ask you why it was built or about its features. Again, that's question 4 territory. Or you might see it show up as part of an essay on punishment aims. So, keep these 3 in mind. They each link closely to key themes and haven't had much attention in recent years, which makes them prime candidates for this year's paper. Let's now turn to some key individuals who could easily show up this year. First, John Howard and Elizabeth Fry, the famous prison reformers. Their specific impact hasn't been a central question recently, could be a question 4 on why reform was needed, or feature in question 5 or 6 evaluating drivers of punishment change. Then we have the Fielding brothers. They're key to understanding how policing started to evolve. Expect a question 4 on their contribution to early policing, or possibly a question 5 or 6 comparing them to Peel and asking who was more important in shaping law enforcement. Both of these could easily be overlooked, but that's exactly why they might appear. Make sure to know them well. What else could come out? We think you should also focus on early modern law enforcement, specifically authorities. We've seen questions on community roles. Maybe the focus will shift to the role of authorities such as watchmen and government in the c. 1500 to 1700 period. We highly recommend you prepare for medieval law. Think about the specific roles of manor courts, church courts, sheriffs, or coroners. These have been less explored recently. For changing crime definitions beyond witchcraft, we think that the toll puddle martyrs or specific modern crimes, such as driving, race, drugs, could be a question 4 focus. Finally, regarding purpose of punishment, medieval attitudes were hit in 2024. Perhaps the focus will shift to early modern deterrents such as bloody code. When it comes to the Whitechapel section, there are a few areas we think could be hot this year, simply because they haven't been the focus of recent exam papers. Focus on migrant experiences. Keep an eye out for questions on Irish or Eastern European Jewish communities. The examiners might test your understanding of how immigration created tension in the area. You also want to focus on policing specifics. This includes cooperation between different forces like the Met and City of London Police, or the role of key figures like Sir Charles Warren. You might also get asked about how they handled issues like protection rackets or riots. Think carefully also about public responses. This could involve the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee or public attitudes towards the police in general. Both are excellent areas for question 2, the inference questions. So, if you're prepping for the Whitechapel section, make sure you don't just focus on the Ripper. These lesser covered topics might just catch students off guard this year. Let's finish with the golden rules, the non-negotiables if you're aiming for top marks in GCSE History. First, cover everything if you can. Predictions are helpful, but don't rely on them alone. Second, know your question types inside out. It's not just what you know, it's how you apply it. And third, study real answers. This is where most students go wrong. They revise the content, but they never see what a top grade answer actually looks like. That's exactly why the resources at Kingsbridge are so valuable. They break down top answers for you. Good luck.